All right, we're getting close to game time. Welcome in, everybody. I'm back from the facility. You all know that Thursdays, I don't really burn the midnight oil, but I spend quite a bit of time at the 49ers facility getting my game preview prediction article up. It's 10 observations. Today, I focused on the offensive line of the 49ers against the Cowboys D line. In this video, it's going to be the opposite. We're going to focus on the 49ers defense against Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. In case you missed it, yesterday was the preview video wise of the 49ers offense against that Dallas defense. And there's a lot of symmetry between these two teams, right? Dallas has Micah Parsons. They're built around a strong pass rush. 49ers also have a strong pass rush, but it's actually not quite as strong as the Cowboys anymore. The 2019 49ers saw the peak of their pass rush. Now the 49ers are a much more balanced defense, really, I think, rooted in that linebacker position, but they're good at all levels. And that's the defense that's going to face a balanced Cowboys offense. So this is a good matchup. This is, one of the reasons why this game is so close in the Vegas books, right? The 49ers are 4-point favorites. They're not runaway, overwhelming favorites in this game. And that's because Dallas has offensive capabilities that I think can potentially keep pace with the 49ers if San Francisco doesn't play a clean game. But Dallas also has some vulnerabilities, and we're going to discuss all of the above in this preview of the 49ers defense against the Cowboys offense. First of all, 49ers defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans, it's a busy week for him. The Denver Broncos flew their interviewing contingency to the Bay Area, and DeMeco Ryans might be meeting with them right now. Kyle Shanahan said that Thursday night was free on DeMeco Ryans' schedule for an interview, and so was Friday afternoon. Maybe DeMeco packs two in on Friday afternoon because it has now been reported that 4 meetings with teams looking for head coaches will be happening this week. And obviously Thursday, Friday, maybe something Saturday can happen. But DeMeco today said that he is good at managing his time. And I think we could trust him on that because these are, he's a former all-pro NFL linebacker. You have to manage your time well to reach that level of football. And obviously he has seen so much success as a coordinator for the 49ers here in 2 seasons on that side of the ball. I was just thinking about how the 49ers defense has evolved over the course of this year. And remember, they just got completely exposed against the Kansas City Chiefs. All that lateral movement, especially motion going into the run game, that diffused and neutralized the 49ers pass rush. And DeMeco Ryans on that afternoon didn't have any answers. But one of the biggest tells that this guy knows what he's doing is that no other team has been able to destabilize the 49ers with a lateral run game the same way that Kansas City did. And I get it. Andy Reid is a genius. The Chiefs have horses. They have some speed. They can strain a defense in that way. But the way that DeMeco Ryans course corrected this 49ers unit since that week 7 game is still exceptional because I tell people everybody in the NFL is good. Even the worst team is good. Case in point, the Houston Texans almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They took the Chiefs into overtime a few weeks ago. The 49ers obviously lost to the Chicago Bears. I could go through a ton of examples, but the reason that this is really in the news right now is the 49ers are getting a lot of flack for having one of the easier strengths of schedule this season in the NFL. But people often conflate NFL strength of schedule with college strength of schedule. And that is not a smart thing to do because in college, when somebody has a weak schedule, they're playing. I don't want to disrespect Mercer because that's where Jason Poe went. So let's think of another school. Who does Alabama like to beat up on? Who does Furman? Alabama and Georgia like to beat up on schools like Furman. In college, when you're playing an easy schedule, when you play cupcakes, you're playing a Furman, right? Lenore Ryan. I know Jason Poe also went there, so I don't want to say that, but I let it slip a couple of times. I hope Poe's not watching the show. But anyway, in college, those are the cupcakes. Those are teams that you beat by 60 points. In the NFL, your typical cupcake, like the Houston Texans, can take the Kansas City Chiefs into overtime, or the Chicago Bears, a cupcake for the 49ers, so to speak. Their quarterback's Justin Fields, a Heisman candidate at Ohio State a couple years ago. So everybody in the NFL is good, and that's why looking at different variances in strength of schedule is not as easy of a way to discredit a team's wins, right? And it also lends us tools to be able to evaluate teams, even if they do have one of the lower ranked strengths of schedule in the NFL. And that is a simple way of evaluation. It's called point differential. If they put worse teams on your schedule in the NFL, just beat them by a lot. And if you beat them by a lot, the data has shown that it is predictive of future success against better competition. Because since everybody in the NFL is good, everybody's kind of bunched together. Even the bad teams are bunched relatively close to the good teams if you're going to compare it to how college football works. So if you beat those bad teams by a lot, as the 49ers have done in general this year, it is an indication that you're going to have success moving forward. And the 49ers haven't only beaten bad teams, they've beaten playoff teams throughout the season. They managed to knock off the Seahawks 3 times. They've also seemed to have ruined some teams' seasons. The Dolphins were flying high when they came into Levi Stadium. They won one game past that. There's the crazy stat of teams being 0-15 the week after playing the 49ers this year. All this stuff supports the fact that the 49ers are a good football team. And I think that strength of schedule argument, that's, a little bit of a fake smart argument. It's people thinking they can apply a college football concept to the world of the pros. And the pros are very, very different. Anyway, this 49ers defense has gone through a whole season of ups and some downs. And the strength of opposition has definitely been one of the factors that has contributed and has been part of our evaluation of this unit. And it's fair if we keep it in the right context, right? To use, okay, who are they playing when? How do they perform against this level of offense? How are they going to perform moving forward? So as long as we keep it in context, it's very fair. And we're going to keep it in context here as we evaluate the 49ers matchup against Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. First things first, Jerry Jones, who's a very talkative owner, came out and said this week, because Jerry Jones does media appearances. It's crazy to me. He sits in the locker room after every game and has reporters asking questions about the game. He's not a coach, but obviously he is the owner and he can do whatever he wants. But Jerry Jones this week just started talking about the Cowboys strategy in this game. And he straight up said that he expects Dak Prescott is going to run a lot against the 49ers. We didn't see Dak run a whole lot during the regular season, and it makes sense, probably trying to preserve himself, right? He's already suffered one really ugly injury with the ankle. A lot of people compared the Trey Lance injury to the Dak Prescott injury when that happened to Trey Lance in week 2. But, now Dak, few seasons in the league, knows how to pick his spots. And he did pick a few spots against Tampa Bay on Monday night. That was a massive performance from Dak Prescott, by the way. 25 of 33, over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. But he also ran the ball 7 times for 24 yards. He also moved around out of the pocket, had a really nice touchdown pass where he was rolling to his offside. Steve Young got a clip of that play. I got to find it here. Let's find this. Steve Young is good at the Twitter game. I mean, Steve Young was good at the football game, but he's also good at the Twitter game. And he got a great video of Dak Prescott coming toward the near side. And Prescott, I mean, the video was so good that it even got audio from Dak Prescott all pumped up. So we're going to go to Steve Young's Twitter and watch this. Shout out to him. It's going to be fun to talk to Steve Young about Brock Purdy at some point soon. Haven't called him up yet, but I mean, we did that big piece with Steve on Trey Lance right before the season started. And now, I've heard Steve on the radio talk about Brock Purdy, and that will get you fired up if you follow the 49ers. All right, so here's Steve. I'm going to get the audio up on this. This is him just filming with his iPhone on the sideline, and this is Dak Prescott and some mobility. Let's take a look. All right. First off, this is really good stuff. I'm going to just fast forward to the point of the throw right here. Dak Prescott's going to be rolling away from his natural side of throwing. And this is something that has given Brock Purdy some trouble this year. Teams are forcing him to roll this way because it's the unnatural side. But look how quickly, I mean, this is elite stuff from Prescott. Look how quickly he's able to get his body in decent enough position to fire downfield, even to the unnatural side. I mean, to me, that's crazy. The platform from which he throws here is super impressive. I mean, at this point right here, this is a split second before the throw. You have to say, if you're watching most quarterbacks, they're not going to be able to make an accurate throw a good 20 yards downfield from this position. How's he going to do it? And there's a safety or a linebacker coming in from the left side of the frame here. But if I fast forward tiny bit, somehow, some way, Dak just whips that arm, gets the ball off right before he gets hit. There comes, looks like a defensive back, or I couldn't tell, couldn't see the number, but elite stuff from Dak Prescott. If he does that against the 49ers, if he's playing off schedule in such a fashion, it's going to be challenging for the 49ers to defend him, and their offense is going to have to do some scoring to win this game, which is, spoiler alert for my prediction. I think that's going to have to happen. I don't think Dallas is a team that you hold to 7, right? Maybe 20, but I don't think it's a team that you hold to 7 or 10 points. And, it's because Dak Prescott is fresh off a game where he was doing stuff like that. And Jerry Jones thinks that he's going to be doing stuff like that against the 49ers. Now, everybody talks about the 49ers and mobile quarterbacks, and I think it's overblown because, listen, every single quarterback who can run is going to put extra strain on a defense. It's not just the 49ers who struggle with this. This is not rocket science. If somebody is fast, he'll run away from pass rushers. Now, where the 49ers might be a little bit more vulnerable than other teams to this is because they run a wide 9, right? They run a wide 9 defensive alignment, and that means that you think about their defensive line, think of an accordion. The tackles and the defensive ends are stretched apart like an accordion when it's stretched apart because they want to get the defensive ends wider so they can use speed to run around the offensive tackles. It is a very pass rush oriented alignment that relies on having really good defensive linemen because each defensive lineman's area of responsibility is bigger if they're stretched farther apart, right? So you can't have weak defensive linemen, especially weak defensive tackles in a wide 9, because if people are stretched apart and he has to cover more ground, he has a bigger area of responsibility, a worse player is really going to be exposed in such a system. And what else can be exposed in such a system? Because there are bigger gaps in between the linemen, there can be bigger running lanes for a quarterback to escape the pocket. And I think in general, over the first couple of years of the wide 9, 2019, 2020, when there was all this talk about the 49ers, facing running quarterbacks and struggling a bit with them, I think it was a lot of that, right? It was a lot of, there's a big gap in the wide 9. Kyler Murray's running right through it. 49ers need to do a good job tightening it up. But this is where we have to talk about defense as a whole, a team entity. It's not just the front 4 that's defending. The back 7 has to do its job too. And the linebackers especially need to be immediate augmentations to the defensive linemen. And there's a reason why the 49ers have recruited, signed, drafted, whatever you want to term it as, why they've acquired such fast physical linebackers like Fred Warner, like Dre Greenlaw, like Azeez Al-Shire, because they know with the wide 9 up front, with that accordion stretched out to the max, they know that there's going to be those running lanes, and they need linebackers that are fast enough to go sideline to sideline to clean up those lanes. So if you're looking at defense collectively, if that front 7, if the rushers are doing their job, forming a contained pocket, and the linebackers are doing their job, sealing off the big lanes, you can slow down running quarterbacks. And the 49ers, by and large, think that they have found a good formula against running quarterbacks. And you know what? The data indicates that they're right. The 49ers have actually ranked in the top 12 in each of the past 2 seasons in EPA per drop back surrendered on quarterback runs. So that averages it out. And I think that fleshes out that the 49ers are a top half team against quarterback runs. I think that fans are just so used to the shutdown 49ers efforts of 2019. And then all of a sudden they were jarred when they saw a quarterback running away. They're like, wait, that's not supposed to happen. Nobody's supposed to gain yardage against our defense. That's what these fans say. And then they automatically think that the 49ers are bad against the run. But the truth is that everybody's going to be worse against the faster quarterback. You just have to mitigate the damage that good legs can do. And the 49ers, by and large, this year, they haven't faced as many mobile quarterbacks, but they have mitigated that damage when they faced them, with the exception of one game. And that was the Raiders game, where Jarrett Stidham took them by surprise. I think this is a concern for the 49ers entering this game because look at this. I just put it on the bottom of the screen. I think the Cowboys have a Raiders-like offensive base. And I don't mean this in an insulting way to the Cowboys. I mean this in a totally complimentary way. The Las Vegas Raiders, despite not being a great team this year, had dudes at the skill positions offensively. They had maybe the best running back in the game in Josh Jacobs. They had one of the best tight ends in the game in Darren Waller. They had one of the best receivers in the game in Devontae Adams. And those were all complementary pieces to the point where the Raiders were able to run a ton of play action against the 49ers. They were able to compromise the back end with the threat of the run. They were able to attack the seams and attack on play action over the top with their big tight end, Darren Waller. And of course, they were able to beat man coverage with Devontae Adams. When you have all of those components offensively, you can strain a defense in the NFL, especially one that is as sound as the 49ers. And I think that Dallas has those components. I mean, they have Tony Pollard. They have Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. Pollard's really explosive. Yes, I do think that Christian McCaffrey was snubbed from the Pro Bowl, but I'm not saying that Tony Pollard's a bad player. He's really explosive. Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, I don't want to say tail end of his career. I don't know how much he has left, though, but it is a cautionary tale of physical running backs. These guys can get worn down quick. Zeke is no longer the top guy for the Dallas Cowboys. He's more of the physical force, though, right? Pollard is going to be the Lightning. Ezekiel Elliott's going to be the Thunder. And that's a base for this Cowboys offense. They're going to start by running the football in this game. They were going to want to establish that because they want the 49ers to get suckered in a little bit closer to the line, and that way they can unleash this guy on him. Dalton Schultz, tight end, Stanford teammate at Christian McCaffrey's. He can hit the seams. And then CeeDee Lamb, 1,300-yard receiver. He's somebody that's going to be working against Charvarius Ward. So you could see what I mean by a Raiders-like offensive structure. They have the same key skill position talents, right? They have talents at the same spots as the Raiders did to be able to strain the 49ers defense a little bit. Now, the difference, I think, between this coming game and that game against the Raiders is that the 49ers definitely are not going to be taking and underestimating the quarterback, taking the quarterback lightly in this game. It's Dak Prescott. The owner of the Cowboys himself, Jerry Jones, is saying that Prescott's going to be moving around a little bit to put extra strain on the defense. 49ers didn't do a good job containing Jarrett Stidham, the backup of the Raiders, when this happened, and that helped unleash all the other weapons because it was a domino effect. This time, the 49ers need to solve the issue from its root. So they need to, A, stop the run early in this game. That involves stopping Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, but don't just stop the run from the running backs. You've got to blitz in a contained fashion with your defensive line, or rush in a contained fashion with your defensive line. And when you do blitz in a contained fashion with your linebackers so that Dak Prescott can't do what Jerry Jones said that he was going to try to do this game, and that's try to pick up some yardage downfield out of schedule, right? Moving out of the pocket when the pocket collapses. You have to close the doors on that pocket. You can't let Dak Prescott beat you with his legs. Now, last year, ironically, Dak Prescott lost the game with his legs. Remember how nerve-wracking that was at the end of last season for the 49ers? They're up 23-17. Dallas ran a hook and lateral to CeeDee Lamb that picked up probably, about 20 yards, got him to about midfield. There were only a few seconds left, though, and then the Cowboys got to about the 40, and there were 14 seconds left, and Dallas didn't have any timeouts. And for some reason, against the three-man rush, I actually should probably look up to see what the Cowboys have said about this, because I didn't know if this came from upstairs or if it came from Dak Prescott, but Dak took the snap and decided to run with it immediately. Snap and draw. And to me, that was one of the most ill-advised plays that I've ever seen on a football field. There are 14 seconds to go, and Dak Prescott ran a quarterback draw up the middle of the field with no timeouts. And he picked up a good 15 yards. He got down to about the 25-yard line. So, I mean, it takes a while to run that far down the field, right? And there are only 14 seconds on the clock to begin with. So it was going to be a bang-bang proposition, even if everything went right for the Dallas Cowboys, to get back up to the line and spike the football. And we all know what happened. Dak Prescott couldn't spike the football in time because the officials, it took them a while to set the football. The officials didn't do anything wrong. It was the Cowboys who decided to run the completely inane risk of a middle field run with only 14 seconds left and no timeouts. Anyway, I just think it's ironic because we're talking so much about the 49ers defending a running quarterback, about them, having to contain Dak Prescott in the pocket, where it was literally a Dak Prescott run that did the Cowboys in last year. They didn't get a shot at the end zone because Dak Prescott ran, was down in bounds. You have to give credit to Azeez Al-Shire, 49ers linebacker, who stayed on top of Dak Prescott for an extra second and a half, maybe. But I think that second and a half might have been the difference between the Cowboys being able to get that snap off and not being able to get that snap off, which ended up happening. Anyway, so you contain the run game. So that means Pollard, Elliott, that's going to be a battle up front, but the 49ers are the number one defense in the NFL against the run. You think that they should be able to do it. They struggled a little bit last week in the first half against the Seattle Seahawks. Some good patient running from Kenneth Walker, right? Some cutback lanes were there. The Seahawks inverted the way that they're attacking the 49ers run game. They're going opposite side. They're flipping plays, caught Dre Greenlaw off guard. You would think that the 49ers would be a little bit more ready for inverted attacks this week. So I will predict that they're going to do a good job against the Dallas run game, just because I haven't seen this defense have 2 bad weeks in a row against the run, since one bad week is so rare. But even if you do stop Pollard and Elliott or slow them down, you also have to make sure that Dak Prescott is not replicating the effect of a run game with his legs. And what's the effect of the run game? Well, the effect of the run game is you're neutralizing a pass rush. And that pass rush can pin its ears back if the threat of the run is not there. And that's where the 49ers want to get defensively. And they got there last year. They gave up only 77 running yards to the Cowboys last year. 49ers got a lead. They pinned their ears back, and they notched 31 pressures against the Cowboys. That was the stat of the game, in my opinion. 49ers had 31 pressures. Dallas only had 14. And this was without Nick Bosa, right? Bosa suffered a concussion in the second quarter. So about 2/3 of the game, the 49ers played without Bosa, but they had relentless pressure from so many different defensive linemen. Charles Omenihu leading the way was 6. Samson Ebukam had 4. Arden Key had a big game for the 49ers against Dallas. They picked up the slack outside of Nick Bosa. And to me, that's what's so key in this game for the 49ers. They have to do more outside of their top guy, because we know that there's going to be heavy emphasis from the Dallas Cowboys on blocking Nick Bosa. So the question on the bottom of the screen is, how beatable is Dallas's offensive line? Well, their 40-year-old left tackle, Jason Peters, was with the Eagles forever. He has a hip injury. He hasn't practiced yet this week. So I'm having my doubts about whether or not Jason Peters is going to play this game. So we'll see how the Cowboys line things up. But no Peters, that would be an issue for the Dallas Cowboys. They have Connor McGovern as their 6th offensive lineman. So they probably stick him in and run some rotations that way, the same way that they finished the game against Tampa Bay. But keep in mind that their, other tackle, Tyron Smith, who's on the right side this year, Tyron Smith did not handle Charles Omenihu well last year at all. Omenihu just straight up, Omenahu's got these wildly long arms, right? Charles Omenihu is a force of nature with his arm length. He's 6'5". He's trimmed down to 265. So he's got explosiveness, but he still, can generate that power with the long arms because he keeps the opposing tackles off of his body. Omenihu had a field day against Dallas last year, and I see Omenihu succeeding again against this Cowboys team that might be down 1 tackle against the 49ers this week. And even if that tackle plays, it's a 40-year-old tackle, and we know that this is a young man's game. So, I think this Dallas offensive line is beatable. This is not the Great Wall of Dallas that the 49ers saw in the 90s or even a few years ago that was really propelling the Cowboys. This Cowboys front is ranked number 11 in pass blocking efficiency, which is good. Okay, I guess I would say it's above mediocre. But the 49ers pass rush, which, we've talked about them losing some steam here over the last couple of years, they kicked it into gear late last season, right, in the playoffs with guys like Arden Key, with Omenihu against the Cowboys, with Samson Ebukam peaking at the right time. I think this is as good of time as any to expect the 49ers pass rush to roar to life outside of Nick Bosa. And some health issues for Dallas up front may allow the 49ers to do that. Now, if you get to Prescott, that's when you could start truly getting greedy in matchups like this one. And this is a huge matchup, even if you don't get the Prescott. I mean, this is one that you have to play to at least the draw. And that's Charvarius Ward, the 49ers' top cornerback, against CeeDee Lamb, the Cowboys' top receiver. Career year for Lamb, 1,300 receiving yards. Last year, he had about 1,100, but he managed only one catch for 10 yards against the 49ers, plus the yardage he picked up on the hook and lateral that I was talking about at the end of the game. But, when another team has a guy that's, over 1,000, and in this case, over 1,300 on the season, stopping him or at least neutralizing him in a fashion that's sustainable is imperative. And by that, I mean, you can't dedicate your entire secondary to covering one player, especially against a team like the Cowboys, which has so much more firepower than just CeeDee Lamb. I already mentioned Dalton Schultz, the tight end, but you got Michael Gallup, who's the second receiver, Noah Brown on this team, Pollard, Elliott, both of those guys can come out of the backfield. If you're the 49ers, you have to do a good job. Oh, T.Y. Hilton's on this team too. Almost forgot about that. But if you're the 49ers, you have to do a good job against CeeDee Lamb with more limited resources. Otherwise, Dak Prescott is going to have a field day throwing elsewhere. And this is why the 49ers paid big money to Charvarius Ward, because you have to have him take on that opposing number one receiver at least 50 to 60% of the time in man coverage. And they've been running these guys. I mean, they were running Ward trailing DK Metcalf in both of the last two games against Seattle. You do that because then schematically you unlock the rest of your defense. Remember, coverage can fuel rush as much as rush fuels coverage. That's been the big evolution for the 49ers. Anyway, if Ward can play CeeDee Lamb to at least a draw in this game, the 49ers can sit back and they can start thinking about beating Dallas's offensive line. And good defensive play is a domino effect. They obviously have to stop the run. They obviously have to slow down CeeDee Lamb. But those two things, if they can do those two things, and that's what they say, do your job, because each individual player has got a different part of the task here. If everybody does their job, that's when this game can turn into something where I think the 49ers can get bad Dak Prescott and draw him out and start beating up on the Cowboys. What do I mean by bad Dak Prescott? Well, Dallas Cowboys quarterback, we're going to find his interception rate here, has not been good this season when it comes to caring for the football. If anything, the Tampa Bay game was an outlier for Dak Prescott. 4 TDs, no interceptions, but we go through his regular season. This was as bad as it's ever been for Dak. He threw 15 interceptions, and he was hurt for a stretch of 4 or 5 games there a little bit earlier. The interception rate for Dak Prescott today, in fact, was this season for Dak Prescott was downright ugly. And I hope to find it soon, because it's staggering when you see the numbers of each season on INT rate right next to each other. It was 3.8% this year. And those of you who follow my INT rate stats, when I'm talking about Garoppolo's INT rate, Lance's INT rate, Purdy's INT rate, those of you who follow that know that 3.8 is extremely high. I got to find this. Here we go. Let's go Prescott. 3.8. I put it somewhere on Twitter. That's how I find my tweets. I search. I remember 2 words from them, and I hope that here it is. I found it. This might be the stat, guys. This might be the operative key for the 49ers defense. Ooh, there's that camera shutter. All right, let's toss this up onto the screen for you. Right here, interception rate for Dak Prescott season by season. Look at this. 2016, rookie year, 0.9%, which is exemplary. It's really good. That's near the top of the league, or right at the top of the league. League average is 2.7%. It's around where, actually, league average is 2.3%, I want to say. Garoppolo, though, every season prior to this one had been around 2.7% every prolonged season. That was his career average. 49ers wanted to get Jimmy under that. They did. He got down to like 0.9% this season. But anyway, I digress. Look at Dak in 2018. They turned it into a firmly above average number in 18, 1.5%. That's really good. 1.8%, still solid. 1.8%, 1.7%. I mean, past 4 seasons before this one, we'd seen some real consistency from Dak Prescott, and it was impressive. And this is how he had emerged and developed a reputation as one of the NFL's more stable quarterbacks. But you hit 2022. What the hell happened here? Wild hair up his nose, right? 3.8%, 15 interceptions for Dak Prescott and not even a full season. 3.8% is way above league average. This was hurting the Dallas Cowboys this year. And, it's absolutely something to monitor, despite the fact that Dak Prescott did have an interception-free, clean, very good game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And why will we monitor it? Well, it's because the 49ers lead the NFL with 20 interceptions. Dak has thrown 15. 49ers have picked off 20. Something's got to give in this game, right? If Dak is able to avoid the interceptions altogether, Cowboys have a good shot at sticking with the 49ers. But if the 49ers can force him into some mistakes, and that's why we're talking about how beatable that offensive line is, use that pressure to generate some of those bad throws, well, then I think that this could be a really, really good day for the 49ers defensively. But it's not going to be easy because they got weapons on this Dallas offense, and Dak generally, you saw it here, and I'll put it up there again, generally has avoided those picks throughout his career. It actually has been an anomaly this year that he's at 3.8%. Now, do we have an anomaly within an anomaly? Was that Tampa Bay game, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions? Was that just a fluke? Is Dak more of the 3.8% kind of guy? I guess we shall see. But I do know that last year the 49ers did force him into errors. He did miss some passes. K'Wan Williams had a big interception before Deebo Samuel touchdown, put the 49ers up fairly big there toward the end of the game. That was the 49ers' final score. I think they're up 16-7. That made it 23-7. Dallas almost came back. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but remember that it was an INT that was able to put the 49ers into position to almost win that game. So the bottom line for the 49ers in this game is that they need to force Dak Prescott into mistakes. People don't really know how to evaluate defense these days. And I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Greedy fans, they don't understand that football is going to be a game, especially at the professional level, where each team is going to have some wins. It's a matter of who notches the victories on each Sunday more often than the other and then ends up winning on the scoreboard. But, defenses are going to give up yards. That's the modern NFL. Another factor is that 49ers fans remember the first 7 or 8 weeks of 2019 where the 49ers defense was literally pushing teams back like into negative yards in seemingly every single game. So then they see yards against the 49ers defense now, and then they see some points against the defense. And God forbid a halftime deficit last week, and people are like, oh, the defense is trash. It's not good. The only fair way to measure a defense in the NFL is to measure it against its peers, against its counterparts around the league. And I guarantee you that the 49ers are the only team that is consistently holding opposing teams to around 17 points. And, you look at Dallas and the fact that they should be able to move the ball a little bit against the 49ers because they have Dak, they have weapons, they have CeeDee Lamb, they have Tony Pollard, they have Ezekiel Elliott, they have Dalton Schultz. I mean, 49ers are number 13 DVOA against tight ends this year. It's been an issue for them. They're going to be able to hit Dalton Schultz on some of these seam passes. You have to accept the fact, if you're a 49ers fan, that they're going to give up some yardage in this game. They're probably going to give up some points in this game. But the key is to force Dak Prescott or whoever else, if you want to strip the ball, but Dak is the guy that handles it most as the quarterback, so I'll talk about him here. You force him into giveaways. That can come through the pass rush, putting Dak into a panic situation. It could come through coverage, blanketing the back end, and then Dak Prescott throwing it right to somebody. It could come through an acrobatic play from Dre Greenlaw. That's what it took to intercept Tom Brady a few weeks ago. However it happens, the 49ers lead the league in turnover differential. That is highly correlated with winning. They have a meeting called The Ball every single week that talks about turnover differential. So if you're the 49ers, you have to hammer that home, have to make it work. Because if you do get takeaways in this game, you have such a definite advantage. You could probably start printing your bus tickets or your flight tickets or whatever you need to print to get to the NFC Championship game. But I mean, so many cool matchups in this game that comprise what I'm talking about. The Dalton Schultz one is one of them. I mean, let me talk about this. How will they cover Dalton Schultz? Do you use a little bit of Odom? Do you use Hufanga? Do you use Greenlaw or Warner? Do you trust your linebackers enough to cover a tight end? And I think the answer for the 49ers is yes. I mean, Fred Warner's knocked the pass away from Cooper Kupp this year. I'm not saying it's a good idea for Fred Warner to cover Cooper Kupp on a down in, down out basis, but he certainly is capable of pass coverage. And I think the 49ers are going to save their safeties. They're going to want to have their safeties roam a bit. Awesome play was the spy play that we saw not George Odom, Tashawn Gibson. Did I call Tashawn Gibson George Odom a little bit earlier? I'm sorry if I did. George Odom, though, stud safety as well, the NFL special teams tackle leader. But Tashawn Gibson early in the game against Seattle, when Geno was running to the left, it was Gibson who came across the opposite side of the formation, darted through the line. Colby Parkinson couldn't block him. I don't think Colby Parkinson was expecting such a heads-up play from Tashawn Gibson, and he threw Geno Smith down. It was a key early second down. Well, the reason I bring that up is that the 49ers want to play at home in this game. They want that defense to be at home. They want those safeties, especially Hufanga and Tashawn Gibson, two instinctive players. They want them to be able to prey, right? They want them to be able to prey on the opposing offense, prey on wherever Dak Prescott might be running the football. And the way that you're able to do that is if you get your linebackers if your linebackers are capable of pass coverage, which a lot of linebackers aren't, but I think that Greenlaw and Fred Warner are, if you can get those guys to deliver against a player like Dalton Schultz, the heavily used Cowboys tight end who had 95 receiving yards last week, that's when your safeties are freed up and when they can prey on the opposing offense. So everything is going to be working together. I just think the 49ers do have enough firepower here to not snuff out the Cowboys, but to really decisively control game flow with their defense. Now, if Dak is starting to make insane throw after insane throw, like the one that I showed you that Steve Young put up on his Twitter, I mean, that one, if I could find it, might be worth watching again. I think I closed it, so we're good. So we're not going to watch it now. But if he's going opposite body, off platform, flicks into the end zone to get away from the 49ers pass rush, well, at some point you just have to tip your cap, right? At some point, the offense is going to do something that beats even a really good defense. But if that's the case, then the 49ers' best offense or their best defense is going to be a good offense, right? Yeah, their best defense is going to be a good offense, and that's just going to mean they're going to have to score more points than Dallas in this game at a total that is above 30. I don't think it's going to get to that, but that really draws out the battle lines. I'm trying to illustrate why the 49ers are favored, and it's not just because their defense is good. It's because their offense has been firing on all cylinders and can be the perfect form of complementary football for the defense. All right, I'm going to answer a few questions here in a little bit. I'm going to take you guys to my YouTube page. Why don't we look at some of the content that we dealt with today at the 49ers facility? It was a later night for me at the facility. I always work in the Starbucks out there until traffic clears up, finish up the game preview. So here we go. This is what the YouTube page looks like right now. By the way, just hit 31,000 subscribers. Thank you to everybody. Appreciate everybody. That's cool news because we were at 30K like 2 days ago. Margot texted me the other day. She's like, oh my God, 30K. And I was like, oh, wow, that came quick. And now I look up and she better text me tomorrow with 31K. We'll see if she notices tomorrow. What are the odds that Margot will notice 31K before I tell her? Hopefully she notices. Oh, and one thing I just noticed is there's like 830 comments in the chat. That's crazy. Here's the page. And I know I need to get Dalton Schultz's name off the bottom. That's oddly specific for what we're talking about. Today, there was a lot. I found a new angle for the on-field updates. This is like right above the end zone. Look at the saloon font looking nice. They're going to be repainting the field tomorrow. So I'm going to make sure to head on out there tomorrow and give you guys a glimpse at the fresh paint. No rain in the Bay Area. It was nice and sunny. We have Brock Purdy's press conference. We have George Kittle's press conference. Good as always. Christian McCaffrey talked at his locker today. D'Amico Ryans talked and saw the interview. And then here we have the sunny weather. This was a little bit earlier at Levi's. This is how brilliant it looks when that sun is shining and they're still cleaning that stadium. It's going to be ready to go for Saturday, for Sunday. The reason I'm showing you guys some of these videos is I'm just so excited to get on out to see 49ers Cowboys playoff game at Levi's Stadium. First 49ers Cowboys playoff game in the Bay Area since January 1995. Last time Cowboys came to the Bay Area in the postseason, the 49ers won a Super Bowl. In fact, we should put that up on Twitter. That should be something that I tweet right now. I think fans would like that, right? Brock Purdy throwing, by the way. Get this up on the screen for you guys. You know what? I will be tweeting right now as you watch Brock Purdy complete all but one pass. He missed one to Brandon Ayuk. But this is obviously not against the defense. So let's type this in. The last time Cowboys visited the Bay Area for a playoff game, the 49ers won the Super Bowl. Boom. It's up. You can check it out. Gave me a nice little break from talking. Twitter is right here at Lombardi himself. So go to the page. You can watch Brock Purdy throwing. You could watch Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle catching. It'll all be fun, they said. So you can check that out in a little bit. All right, now it's time for some of your questions. 49ers Q&A. Purdy has played only 2 above 500 teams, Miami and Seattle. And what did he do to those 2 above 500 teams? He beat them both soundly. That's all you can do. Again, in the NFL, beating worse teams soundly is predictive of the capability to beat better teams. That's how the league works. It's not like Miami and Seattle are sisters of the poor. They're not Furman, right? Miami and Seattle are NFL teams with NFL players, and Brock Purdy has looked good against all of those teams. Fun fact, in 1994, the Rams were also in last place the same year the 49ers won the Super Bowl. I'm sure the Rams have been in last place since then. The Rams have seen a lot of last place in their franchise history. But yeah, that makes sense because the following year was the Rams' last year, and they only played part of it at the old Busch Stadium before they moved into their dome. They shared the old Busch Stadium with the St. Louis Cardinals. And the reason I remember that is because Ken Norton Jr., 49ers linebacker, beat up the goalpost twice. He beat up both goalposts after pick sixes. So first off, 49ers linebacker got 2 pick sixes in the same game on the road. So he got to beat up both goalposts in celebration. Now, the reason that Ken Norton Jr. beat up the goalpost is because his dad, Ken Norton Sr., was a heavyweight boxer. I mean, a legend, right? He beat Muhammad Ali. I think he lost to Muhammad Ali as well, but Ken Norton was one of the few who beat Muhammad Ali. Anyway, in tribute to his dad, Ken Norton Jr. beat up those goalposts, and that was the Rams' last game at the old Busch Stadium, and the Rams were very sorry in that game. That's where the same old sorry-ass Rams saying came from, and it seemed to have returned this year, just one season after the Rams won a Super Bowl. What was Purdy's vibe like today? Mature, same as it always is. Brock Purdy he's on top of his stuff. I talked to his QB coach, Dan Minucci from the Phoenix area yesterday. Going to be talking to him some more. Dan, he had the best description of Brock Purdy. He said, Brock is an old soul. He acts like an old soul. I'm like, you're right. He acts like an old soul. That is exactly how I would characterize Brock Purdy. He's an old soul. And that's exactly what the 49ers need because the guy is only 23 years old. If he acted like he was 23, I'm not so sure that the 49ers would be on an 11-game win streak right now. So that was the vibe from Brock Purdy today. Do you think the offensive line is better than the 5 guys that started in Dallas last year? Absolutely yes. And spoiler alert, my game preview is coming out tomorrow on The Athletic. That is exactly what it leads with. The 49ers O-line is much improved, and they're going to have to be much improved because Dallas leads the league in pressures. We talked about this on the defense preview for the Cowboys against Brock Purdy yesterday. Dallas has hundreds and hundreds of pressures this year. Micah Parsons has 98 on his own. The Cowboys have the highest pressure rate in football, above even Philadelphia. They get after it. This is a pass rushing team. And the 49ers, if they're not ready for the challenge up front, it's going to be a long day. I don't care how elusive Purdy is. You have to block well up front. And hey, the 49ers this year, they ranked number 3 in pass blocking efficiency. They were middle of the pack last year, below average the year before that. They're number 3 in cumulative pass blocking efficiency. Now, left tackle to right tackle, let's go through it. Trent Williams, dominant Hall of Famer. I mean, Trent Williams is Trent Williams every year. Left tackle has stayed the same. Left guard, Aaron Banks has given up only 1 sack all season long. Laken Tomlinson never had a season where he gave up only 1 sack at left guard. So take that for what it's worth. Center, Jake Brendel, Pro Bowl alternate. That's awesome. Now, is Jake Brendel better than Alex Mack was last year? I don't know about that. Alex Mack made the Pro Bowl last year. But the 49ers plan worked out really well. Remember, everybody's like, oh, they got to draft a guy. He's got to learn under Alex Mack. He's got to have this apprenticeship. And the 49ers are screwed if they don't do that before Alex Mack retires. Nobody realized that Jake Brendel was the apprentice. The master was Alex Mack. The apprentice was Jake Brendel. And it seems that Mack did a really, really good job with Jake Brendel because he's been pass protecting, I think, even better than he's been run blocking. And we all know that Jake Brendel's got really plus athleticism scores. So he's really good at getting into that outside zone on the run blocking. All right. So centers look good too. How about right guard? Well, at right guard, the 49ers have been really smart because they drafted Spencer Burford and they're developing Spencer Burford, but they also realized that at San Antonio in college, Burford played a max of 12 games, right? Maybe 13 with a bowl game. This NFL season, the 49ers have already played 18. If they're going to win a Super Bowl, it's going to have to be 19, 20, and 21 games. That's nearly twice as long of a season as Burford would have been used to in college. The 49ers said, whoa, wait, this guy's coming in as a fresh, true rookie, right? True freshman. He hasn't had a chance to be in an NFL program for a year yet. This guy's going to run out of gas if we don't give him any help. So that's why they took Daniel Brunskill, who they wanted to have reps anyway, as a 6th offensive lineman. And they had Brunskill split time with Burford over the course of this season. And that's ended up being a godsend for the 49ers because Burford is now fresh. Burford is fresh entering the divisional playoffs. And so is Brunskill by extension. And they also have Colton McKivitz, who helped fill in when Trent Williams had the ankle sprain a few weeks ago. So absolutely, the line is way better than they were against Dallas last year. I mean, against Dallas last year, Tom Compton was playing right tackle. Brunskill was stuck doing all of right guard himself. Alex Mack was dealing with some injuries as last season ended. He ended up retiring, obviously, this offseason. Laken Tomlinson, he was durable. He was a good left guard. But the 49ers haven't really dropped off there with Aaron Banks. That's been a good pick for them. And Trent Williams, I mean, yeah, we could talk about him being a constant, but not when he's hurt. And last year, he was dealing with injuries all the time up until the point that he tried to play on a high ankle sprain in the NFC Championship game. So it is unquestionably true that the 49ers offensive line is better this year than last heading into this game against the Cowboys. All right, let's see some questions. How do the 49ers defensive tackles match up against the Dallas Cowboys interior line? Well, I'm curious to see how Dallas shuffles this around if they don't have Jason Peters at one of the tackles positions. But they have 2 good guards, Tyler Smith and Zach Martin at that right guard spot. Connor McGovern is guard depth, but I don't know how they're going to mix and match with the tackles if Jason Peters is out. I think that Dallas has a solid offensive line. I don't think they're great. I think that Tyron Smith is on the downslope of his career at one of the tackle spots. And I think that the 49ers have been getting stronger and stronger at tackle over the course of the season because they've been getting healthier. I mean, it started with when Eric Armstead came back, continued with Javon Kinlaw made his return. And Kinlaw had really nice push on that early second down run stuff against Seattle. So 49ers defensive tackles, Armstead is a world beater. Armstead's awesome. The rest of them may not be world beaters, but when you rotate Kinlaw, in there with Kevin Givens, T.Y. McGill does some of his stuff. I mean, he's been impressive this year. You can get a lot done with the interior of this 49ers defensive line. They're well coached up by Chris Kasarik, and I think that they're going to be in good position here to give the Cowboys a lot of trouble on the interior. Well, McGlinchey hasn't been much of a punching bag this year. He's been an above average right tackle. McGlinchey's been good, above average pass blocking efficiency, above average run blocker. He's always been a really good run blocker. So McGlinchey put on weight. He put on muscle. He got stronger over the past couple of years. He came into 2020 when they called him the Big Slim. I think that was Richard Sherman's nickname. He came in not ready to anchor. McGlinchey over the past 2 years has been ready to anchor. He just got hurt last year. But his first 8 games before he got hurt in week 9 against Arizona were really strong. And now Mike McGlinchey is looking as good as ever. This is the best football that McGlinchey has played. It's to the point where I'm not sure if the 49ers are going to be able to re-sign him. He's going to be expensive. He's playing good football. I probably will bring him back, but I just can't be sure because Mike McGlinchey has indeed played himself into a good situation in this contract year. I'm scrolling all the way down. Do I see the 49ers having multiple picks of Dak? I see at least one. I don't know, multiple. One interception, I think the 49ers hold serve and win this game. 2 interceptions, I think it's a slam dunk. There's no chance they lose. No interceptions, might be a toss-up. I mean, the 49ers lead the league in turnover differential. It's a massive component of the fact that they've won those 11 straight games. What happened to Coleman last week? He was activated from the Peace Squad, but then inactive for the game. Coleman got a nice fat check into his bank account or direct deposit. I don't know which one he prefers, but they elevated him from the practice squad, even though they weren't planning on playing him, because you make a whole lot more money with your game check if you're on the 53-man roster than if you're on the practice squad. Now, during the regular season, they're not going to do that because it costs you cap space. But in the playoffs, it doesn't cost you cap space to pay the guy anymore. This is a sign, though, that the 49ers have an ownership that's not cheap. They decided to pay Tevin Coleman, I don't know how much more per the game. I would have to look up his contract, but several thousand at least, tens of thousands probably for the game. They decided to pay him that extra money because they could. They wanted to reward a veteran who's done a lot for them in the past. Hope that answers your questions. Kyle's son, Dan Quinn, is a nice guy. Well, I don't know how it's Kyle's son. Dan Quinn has had success against Kyle. I still remember Dan Quinn. I mean, the Falcons beat the 49ers in 2019. Dan Quinn put together a really good game plan. I mean, the Cowboys, Dan Quinn comes from that Seattle-style tree, right, where he loves bringing pressure off the edge. He loves Micah Parsons fits into any scheme, but you could see how he could fit into the Cowboys scheme. We talk about defensive parallels. Well, it's a Dan Quinn defense against a 49ers defense that started off as a Seattle-style unit. I know the 49ers have evolved, but check this out. This is such a cool little graph. This is pass rush win rate on the horizontal x-axis and total sacks on the y. So you want to be as far up to the right as possible over here. So basically you have everybody, all these defensive linemen bunched up on the left. And then look over here. You have the outlier names. You have the best players in football, especially the best pass rushers in football. Look at Nick Bosa. Led the league in sacks. He's way up here. He led the league in sacks despite this is also his pass rush win rate too. Sorry, I thought this was a double team chart at first. But anyway, his pass rush win rate, really high. His sacks, really high. Micah Parsons, not as high with the sacks, but look at the pass rush win rate for Micah Parsons, way out here. Parsons wins a lot. And this graph tells me 2 things. We have 2 edge rushers in this game who will be rushing for the 2 opposite teams in this game who aren't exactly human. These guys are superhuman. You have Bosa and Parsons are big outliers. What does this mean from the 49ers perspective, though? Well, it means that the 49ers are going to, truly have to buckle down and find ways to get out of pass-happy situations. If you're dropping back 30 to 40 times a game against the Cowboys, who generate pressure on over 43% of dropbacks, and Micah Parsons, whose pass rush wins are way up at, somewhere over 75. Well, if that's happening, then your quarterback is going to get terrorized. And it's the same thing for Dallas. You can't be sitting there dropping back 35 to 40 times a game without expecting Nick Bosa to rock your quarterback. So both of these teams need to establish run games to diffuse the opposing pass rush, because Nick Bosa and Micah Parsons are defensive players in this game. They are the great quarterback neutralizers. Great pass rushers are great quarterback neutralizers, and that's a hell of a matchup in this football game. I'm waiting for some more questions that I like. I have no idea who's going to have the bigger game, Bosa or Parsons, but it might be tightly correlated with who wins this game. So, assuming that, let's say that's the assumption. I think Bosa is going to have the bigger game. Somebody named Sith Lord is asking a question, but it just skipped out on me here. Oh, it's Sith Lord. Of course, Sith Lord is a Cowboys fan. Parsons isn't the only threat on the D line. I know this. Of course, I know this. I mean, Dallas is loaded on the defensive line. I'll be the first to tell you that. DeMarcus Lawrence, 30 years old now, but I mean, still racking up the pressures and the sacks. They have Dante Fowler Jr. on this team. They don't have Randy Gregory anymore. Randy Gregory signed with the Broncos in free agency. He ran the switcheroo. Wasn't he going to re-sign with the Cowboys? And then was like, no, I haven't signed yet. I'm going to the Broncos now. But Randy Gregory, I mean, to give you an idea of how important it is to block these guys, Randy Gregory was the 49ers' nemesis last year. He injured Jimmy Garoppolo. Mike asked the same question. Oh, no. Mike asked the same question, but for the 49ers side. Who else on the 49ers D-line can create pressure? Seems like that's the key. That's Charles Omenihu. Omenihu had 6 pressures in 21 pass rushing snaps last year. Breakout game against the Cowboys. We know that he matches well against Tyron Smith. It's Charles Omenihu that's got to bookend Nick Bosa. I think he's the guy. They need more out of Ebukam, but Ebukam's playing on an ankle right now. Looks good at practice. We'll see if they can get him surging. I think Drake Jackson's active in this game simply because Ebukam might be a little bit hindered by that ankle injury. I think the 49ers, Dallas is a running team, so it creates the quandary of, and let me amend that. They're not a running team. Dallas is a balanced team. Pollard, Elliott, but Prescott can throw. That gives you that's the point, though. That's what makes this hard for the 49ers. We've seen a couple weeks recently against Washington, and then last week against Seattle, where the 49ers have sat Drake Jackson. They made him inactive, and they brought up an extra defensive tackle to combat the run. Do you want to do that in this game against Dallas, or do you need more edge rushers, especially because Sansom Ebukam might be a little bit hindered with the ankle injury? I don't know. But I think that, it's tough to not have Drake Jackson in there. For a lot of this season, he was leading the league in tips at the line of scrimmage. He had the interception, remember, right place, right time, but still heads up play against the Raiders. He's got that bendy ability to rush around the edge. One thing about Jackson, though, he is a rookie, and this is a long season, right? For the 49ers, we're entering game 18. They were able to keep Spencer Burford fresh by rotating his snaps with Daniel Brunskill. Hopefully they can keep Drake Jackson fresh as well. And maybe part of the inactivities here lately have been because of that. Ian Sharp wants to see more from Hyder, but Hyder's more of an interior guy. They don't use him on the edge anymore. So Hyder's not going to be noticed as much on the interior, but he's scrappy, and I think he does some good work in there for the 49ers. I was out at Candlestick today. I just haven't put together the video. So I spent a little bit of the morning there. Candlestick video's coming out. Just I got to edit these things too, This is a lot of work. I got to edit the Kezar video. I had a little bit more time because I didn't have practice. But guys, we still have a lot of time before the game. I have this all pre-planned to pass the time for you before the game. That's why you need to subscribe to the channel, because I'm here not stressing about it, but I'm charting it. I'm saying, hey, this video needs to go there. This article needs to go here. This tweet needs to go here. It's all for you so you can pass the time without being bored or too anxious or too antsy before the football game starts. And that's going to be at 3:30 p.m. on Sunday, not Saturday. Saturday, we get to watch Philly and the Eagles. It's going to be fun. What are the injuries on the Dallas side? DeMarcus Lawrence is limited in practice. He's going to be okay, though. That's been happening all year for them. Jason Peters has the hip issue. 40-year-old offensive lineman hasn't practiced this week, so that one is a bigger threat. And then Jaron Kearse, the Cowboys safety, has a knee issue, has been limited as well. It looks like Kearse is going to play. I don't know, though, if the 49ers are going to try to challenge him, if he's going to be a little bit slowed down. That could be an interesting matchup on that side of the ball. But you know what's really cool? I know that some radio station hosts in Dallas don't think this is cool, but I think it's awesome that both of these teams are relatively close to fully healthy. I get it. There have been prior injuries earlier in the season. It's football. Those are going to happen. But right now, the injury lists are really short of the players who are on the active roster. So we're going to get to see the 49ers and Cowboys be relatively healthy at a level that you don't normally see this deep into an NFL season because they truly are marathons. All right, cool. That's it for me today. Everybody, thanks for joining. Follow on Twitter, sub to The Athletic, do all that good stuff. And most importantly, hit that sub button right now. Hit the alarm button. Be notified when I go live. Hell, I may even go live from the Candlestick parking lot or something one of these days. Now, that's a spoiler alert. I was in the Candlestick parking lot today. There's content coming from there. Just have to give me some time, guys. Give me some time. It'll all be okay. So follow along, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and we'll make it together to the start of 49ers Cowboys. What a week this is. What an epic battle that's coming up between these two teams. I cannot wait, and I hope that you are just as excited. Everybody take care. Thank you for watching.